Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. It's great to have you back here in Track B. And we have a great speaker coming up next. It is Dr. Cynthia Young, President and CEO of CJ Young Consulting. She's going to talk about it. We in KM, we are familiar with the importance of decision making and how do we inspire a problem-solving mindset, which is the title of her program here. But often, we focus on creative thinking and creative problem solving. Cynthia has a very interesting twist to that whole idea. It's called using knowledge puzzles. So using puzzle solving, setting up puzzles and solving puzzles as a way to develop that problem solving and creative mindset. So with that little teaser, I'll turn it over here to Cynthia and take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Art. So today we're going to talk about knowledge puzzles and inspiring a problem-solving mindset, as it says on the slide. So, oh, sorry
Yes,
about
and by
that.
the way, and everybody there, yeah, well,
there we go.
Yeah, they're in the chat room here. Use the chat box if you have any questions during Cynthia's presentation. I can read them along, and then we'll also have some time left toward the end for Q&A. But if you have any insights or questions as we go along, feel free to enter them into the chat box. We like these sessions to be interactive. Okay, back to you, Cynthia.
Okay. All right. So this is my all about me slide. But what this slide isn't saying is that I love the show The Masked Singer because it is such a challenge for me to watch it. And I'll talk a little bit about it. But with that said, just knowing that you got reality TV and you have semi-reality TV. Now this is semi-reality. It's a game show, so it's a lot of fun, and I found a lot of team aspects in this show. So first, we'll talk about what's a knowledge puzzle. And knowledge puzzles, they require people to think and human thought to solve. We can talk about it as individuals or as teams, and teams is how we're going to talk about it here because that's really the coordination that you have in an organization that's required to solve those hard problems for whether it's your company or for your customer. We look at them being incentivized, and there's different ways to incentivize. And in the business process management, that you've seen it called gamification. Now, gamification, we'll talk about these bullets here, that they use non-games using games or gaming rules. And one of the examples that's given here by Investopedia is a frequent flyer award system. And so, when you're picking out your flight, you are looking at where you have the most points, where you can upgrade. And so for you, that's a no-brainer. You're going to pick where you have get the most points, best value for your dollar. Well, the organization is actually playing a game with you. They are using you to get more dollars based on your preferences and how you're going to use those points. Same thing with Starbucks. Now, I go to Starbucks. I'm not a Starbucks snob, but my daughter does work there, so I get a lot of benefits and such with that. With her benefits, I get the mom discount sometimes. But when you get these stars, you get two stars for every dollar you spend, and right now is a great time of year to use those stars because every 400 stars, you can get a product up to $20. Well, that's gamification. That is a reward for your organization. They're solving a problem about how to get more retail sales. They're solving how to get more people to come and purchase from them rather than from, say, Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme or something like that. So gamification is all around us. We just don't look at that way. We look at the benefits. What is it? What's in it for me? And the organization looks at it. What's in it for them? And so when they're doing problem solving, same thing. You have to have some sort of incentive for all parties involved in order to have a process better or for it to work for your organization and to get those dollars coming in or to problem solve. So, they talk about important measures like level of engagement, influence, brand loyalty, time spent on activity. When you have your Google Analytics on your site, you're using those and you're seeing what you can do to edit those, to alter those, to make those, give you more information. And so as you do lead magnets, those are gaming aspects of it too, because you're trying to figure out what gets the customers trigger tripping. So moving on that, why are knowledge puzzles important? All right. When we're kids, we start off playing games and we solve puzzles, and we do little things in our art classes to create pictures. You know, Activities are fun. So it supports your cognitive growth. So as children grow and they get more interested in things, you see now that they're more interested in these gaming systems. I have a nephew that's 17, and not only does he games with his friends. He games from friends that are from out of state, and they're coordinating their efforts. They're coordinating who kills what weapons they use, which weapons they acquire. They help each other. So it's all about improving your gains. So you're moving fears of challenges because you're sharing the risk. You have other people working with you, other departments or other organizations sharing the risk. So, when you have a prime and a sub relationship, you're sharing the risk. So you're also sharing your knowledge of what you know about the situations. So you're going to have cooperation and sportsmanship. And this is taught, again, when we're young. We play these sports in classes. So it improves your decision-making capability as well as provides an environment for trial and error. We've played a lot of games where we try something out and it doesn't work, and you try to find the quickest way to recover and find something new to do. So this also enables you to have a permissive environment to try and try again, as well as recognize that anybody can problem solve. So when you're problem solving, don't necessarily have to have the leader of the team do the problem solving. You want to teach everybody how to problem solve within the constraints of what you're working with. All right, so this is where I'm gonna get into one of my favorite shows, and my husband will tell you it's one of my favorite shows. I look forward to it. It's on tonight, by the way. It's called The Masked Singer. All right, and so The Masked Singer has a judging team. So like every organization has teams, they have a judging team, and you may recognize their names. They're actors, they're musicians, they're comedians. So they've got a vast amount of knowledge. Right. So the objectives of The Masked Singer, they're to determine who's behind each mask. So as you see the three people on here, the three characters on here, they are the winners of the first three seasons. And fourth season is in progress right now. But the goal for them, the objective is to become the last singer that's unmasked. So you have resources, and it's primarily resources for judging. They have clue packages. They watch performances of these performers. They hear the performers' speeches. Now, they do cover them with some audio tools, but there's other ways that people figure it out. And if you go to YouTube and stuff like that, you'll find that there are people online that do the coordination to figure out who they are, and they kind of spoil it for people in a way. So I try not to look at that. You also have individual knowledge of each of the judges. Each of the judges, they have different experiences, and they may have worked with these people and they may have not. So it's all based on what they know, and they don't sit there with computers in front of them. I don't know what their NDAs say, but they do have some experience, and they have discussions near the end of each performance. So they're coordinating as a team. They're coordinating what they know, sharing their knowledge, and putting pieces together. Okay, so there are incentives. So the incentives for the contestants are this Golden Mask trophy you see here on the screen. And the non-winners, while they don't get the trophy, they do get introduction to a newer audience if they're older contestants or older performers. They'll get introduced to the younger generations, and they get recognition by people who used to watch them or listen to them or buy their products. So this is not a bad thing for anybody. Even if they lose, it's still a good thing. So everybody is win-win here. Now the judges, like the performers, they get introduced and recognized by new people as well as people that have followed them in the past. They do get paid for this. And this year they're introducing the Golden Ear Trophy, which is based on their first opportunity or their first guess for the performer. They go back and they lock it in, and then later on they determined, did they know who the person was. So there's still a lot of coordination that goes on. And while there are incentives, sometimes you'll go through and the person will never be guessed. So moving on. All right, so for your organization, you have a problem solving mindset. you know is it, do you have a problem solving mindset? So like I said earlier, you want to select somebody on the team and you want to have them be lead. It doesn't need to be the formalized team leader, but you want to rotate this through, because this enables you to go without having somebody apart or somebody leaving and then all your experience goes. We talk about this a lot in knowledge management, about ensuring that nothing is left to chance, that you have somebody that knows how to do the business. And same thing with problem solving. If you have a team that's gotten really good at problem solving, you want to share that experience. And the only way to really learn something, quite honestly, is to do it. So you do this and you rotate through, and that way you also get different leadership styles and different learning styles. So again, consider rotations of leads of the teams or the teams. This, you can exchange teams out too. So if you have a team doing similar things and they're both familiar with the customer, maybe they can change out the rotation of the leadership or of the team to determine the problem to be solved or determine the solution. Be open to ideas while learning from the mistakes. Don't ever poo-poo on somebody. I went to this wine party one time. I'm not a big wine drinker, but there's no yuck on your yum, meaning don't tell somebody that their idea sucks, because guess what? It's an idea. It's an idea somebody else didn't come up with or didn't express, and so you need to share these things in order to get the discussion going. All right, and consider a repeatable but revisable process. I'm all about process improvement. I'm all about having a standard process to follow, but if there's a better idea, then why not try it out, or why not work with it? See what you can do with it. It may spring other ideas. It may allow other people to get brave enough to say something, because on a lot of teams you have those people that don't say anything at all, or people that dominate, and you need to bring that down so that everybody can speak. Right. And then finally, incentivize. Now, I'll give you some ideas about incentivizing later on, but there's different ways to incentivize, and everybody has a different thing that they like, or that drives them. Kind of like the frequent flyer or the Starbucks coffee stars. I drink coffee a lot more than I fly. I've flown once this year since COVID, and I was able to upgrade, thank goodness, because it was a long flight. But it's incentives don't have to cost money. They can be just as good as a pat on the back or recognition. And so I'll give you some more ideas about incentives as we go on. All right. And so I put marshmallow challenge anybody. So this is a link, and if you want a copy of this presentation, feel free to send me your email address. I'll give you my email at the end of this presentation, but if you haven't seen the Marshmallow Challenge, it's a TED Talk video, and it's a good experience. If you've never seen it, I encourage you to watch it. I used to use this example when I taught project management, but Marshmallow Challenges are about getting teams together to build a tower. And they found that the best teams were ones that had the executive assistant on it, because the CEO is always trying to tell people what to do, but the executive assistants, they're more the people that hear from everybody. And so I had a student in one of my classes that talked about knowledge, and how it frustrates her that she knows stuff but she can't ever get it out because people don't look at her like she's the right person to ask. So I kind of compared her to Lonnie Anderson of WKRP. Now I know that's dating me, but if you don't know who Lonnie Anderson is, please Google it. And you'll find out she's Jennifer Marlowe. That's her character, and she knows everything that goes on at WKRP in Cincinnati. But the Marshmallow Challenge, it requires people to put together a tower in a certain amount of time with a certain amount of items. And so the executive assistants are able to think through this process. They can problem solve. Now, the people that did the best after that group of executive assistants that support CEOs were kindergartners. And the reason that the speaker came up with was that these kindergartners are not afraid to try again. They do quick fails and they try again, and they're not looking for perfection. They're just looking to meet the requirement. And they also, he jokes that they don't want to be the CEO of Spaghetti Inc. because spaghetti is the main point of this tower. So, just consider that. Consider Marshmallow Challenge when you look at things. You can even do Marshmallow Challenge. It only takes about 20 minutes. It's really easy. I did it with coffee stir sticks and styrofoam cups, and that was it, and a timer. And you just look at how tall it is and how long it takes for people to do it. And the more time they save, that gets them extra points, and the less product they use to get the highest tower saves points. So it's a goal. It's a goal for your team to have, and it's a good team building effort. Okay, so again, when you get this presentation, you can click on it, or you can just Google TED Talk, or yeah, TED Talk and Marshmallow Challenge. Okay, so critical challenge. You need to, or critical knowledge, you need to define knowledge for your organization. I'm not just talking about KPIs. I'm talking about what do you need to know to support your customer or support your business. But with that, you want to publish this critical knowledge because you want visibility throughout your company. It's it goes a long way to ensuring your problem solving is supported and your critical knowledge is known, so your critical knowledge needs are met. And then you're going to use solutions or they won't be recognized as valid, because it's one thing for people to give something a lot of lip service, but it's another thing if you don't use it after saying we have to use this, we have to use this. If you don't use this knowledge, then why is it important enough to make it a critical knowledge? Okay, so identify what motivates your people to share, what they know, and to be part of the problem solving process. So not only are you incentivizing, but you have to identify it, because if you don't identify what motivates them, you're not going to be able to incentivize them to problem solve. You're just going to get people to show up for the meeting and leave, and very little contribution. And they may be hoping for something to be delayed because there's nobody problem solving. I know everybody's been in those meetings where you go and you have to solve a problem, but you only have one or two people that talk because they don't give anybody time to get into the discussion. So please look at what your people, are interested in, find out what motivates them, and then use your incentives to work that to your advantage. Okay. All right. So what are your problem solving processes? And I got a nice little quote there, so feel free to use it. I didn't invent it, but if you can get rid of emotion and concentrate on the problem, you can solve the problem. And when I'm talking about emotion, I'm not just talking about somebody getting their feelings hurt because they got either mansplained or they got talked over. What I'm talking about is if you don't agree with somebody, don't let that be the end of your conversation or end of your participation in conversation. When you're having a discussion, have it be open. It's easier said than done. I know a lot of people get their feelings, wear them on their sleeve. However, you need to look at all aspects of it, kind of like the election. People, one side or the other, and then they get angry, they unfriending people, they're dissociating themselves with them. And that's really goes against everything an organization needs to do as a team of problem solvers. So when you're problem solving, you know, you can't order somebody to share what they know, because when you order somebody, you're going to get, whatever they say, feel like saying, you're not going to get their best work. So you need to know that sharing is, you got to play nice. It's not, well, I'm your boss, I'm going to tell you what to do. Well, guess what? That person could choose to leave your organization just as easily. And, that doesn't solve anything. So next bullet is don't need to be a hero. So you don't need any heroes. You don't need to be a person that always provides an answer. You know, maybe, if you have that, you can make them a mentor, or you can put them in the facilitation seat, because make no, you know, bones about it. You do need a facilitator for these problem solving events. A facilitator will be very helpful to the process because they can stop the emotions. They can stop the mansplaining. They can stop the, you know, people who get upset and just throw their hands up and leave the room. One of the things I've seen as, because I'm also a contractor, a defense contractor, and one of the things I've seen as a defense contractor is that I work with a lot of active duty military, and the higher you are in the military ranks, the more people speak, and they don't necessarily want anybody else to say that disagree with them. So I had an event one time where I was doing a value stream mapping event. So we were trying to solve a problem of why something wasn't getting done within a certain time frame. And this captain kept speaking. Well, the captain kept speaking and it was negative for the team as a whole. The team didn't participate. But then the day that, even after we talked to the captain, my government person talked to the captain, and then I talked to the captain on the side, but there's only so much a contractor can really say. So when the captain was out one day, we had a whole big discussion. The whole team participated and it was such a difference. So that may be some other consideration you have in your problem solving process is that you don't have the senior person in the room. You may give permission, so to speak, to the team to make a decision on their own within some guidelines. Provide them some guidelines, some working rules to figure out the problem, to come up with a solution that fits within the requirements or the confines of your problem. So I've already talked to keep emotions out of the problem solving efforts, but you do need problem solving to be a team effort. No one wants to come to work and have to be in a meeting all day to solve something. And nobody wants to come to work and solve problems all day. That just takes a lot of energy and it's very disturbing. Some people thinking that they want to get some work done, they have this plan. Oh my God, come in the office or you get a call at home. I've got this problem, you've got to solve it today. And guess what? All your plans go out the window. So you need to have a team process of how you're going to solve problems and make it a team sport. So this takes me to published processes. So you need to ask yourself, do you have any published processes? Are they easy to get to? Now, a lot of people use SharePoint, but is SharePoint accessible? Is where the process for the problem solving accessible to everybody at the company, or is it just available to select few senior personnel? That's something for your organization to decide, but my recommendation is you make it available to everybody on an as needed basis, but don't make it where they have to be in dire straits to get to it. It's it's a decision that needs to be made, but it's not something that somebody me on this side of the table is going to tell you how to do it. So, if you don't have a process, do you have lessons learned? Do you have lessons learned that you are comfortable sharing? And when I say lessons learned, I'm not talking about just the good stuff. I'm talking about the good stuff and the bad stuff. What went wrong? How can you make something better? You know, I showed you my intro slide real quick, and you may have noticed I was in the Navy. In the Navy, we had a lot of lessons learned. And lessons learned, they were kept in binders, and then we had internet, we had them online, we had a joint lessons learned database, we had a Navy lessons learned database, and we use these for all sorts of events, such as gun shoots and entering port. So, lessons learned were very good, but what we found very quickly is that they're only as good as the organization using them and if there was any doctrine in place to clean them up, meaning you don't want to have 100 lessons learned for one place. You want to have one or two lessons learned that show, maybe a different type of ship pulling into a port or a different type of event. And so those lessons learned, they help the problem solving process because they say, okay, well, here's the guidance on what's been done before, and here's what worked. And so maybe that's just the answer. Maybe you just have people look at lessons learned before they start a new project. You know, and then again, same group of problem solvers. We don't want to have the same group all the time because what happens if one of them takes a vacation, or even worse, what happens if somebody gets hit by a bus? What happens if that person leaves the organization? You want to have those problem solving capabilities and those processes within your organization. Make it the heart of your organization that it's a team sport. And so that's the thing I always say knowledge management is a team sport. And I know that I'm not the only one because I certainly didn't invent it, but it's very useful to have it be a team sport. It one person does not build an organization. That's why employee stock-owned companies are so successful because you have incentive for all of the people in the organization to help the business grow. And in this case, to help solve problems. Okay. So what is involved in supporting your customer problem solving? All right. So do you solve problems for your customers or do they support your problem solving? And what I mean by this is, is it in your statement of work to solve their problems, or do they only have you solve problems when they want you to? And if they have you solving problems, they provide any of their people there to support you. Because, whatever you come up with may not be what they go with. They may decide, nah, contractors, what do they know? Well, it could bite them in the butt or it could be really good. Who knows? It just depends on the company you're working with or your customer. Right. So the question is, who leads in this case, who leads is pretty important. If you have a customer solving relationship where you are supporting the customer and both your customer and you are problem solving, you need to decide who leads. And normally it's going to be the customer that leads as a figurehead, as a sponsor of the problem solving, but it's your team that does most of the work. So make sure that, when you provide a recommendation that you take into account what their requirements are, as well as you know what types of process you can support, because not only you can problem solve, you're probably going to be doing the work to make that problem work out for the customer. Right. And like I said, what are you allowed to do? Are there any rules you need to have in place to solve these problems? Do you have any required things you can't do? Are you restricted by a certain amount of money? Do you have a time restriction? So it's a lot of questions. You got to go and find out from the customer what you're allowed to do. Is there anything that's off limits? And if they can provide somebody, what is that person gonna be allowed to do? Are they gonna be allowed to speak for the boss? Or are they only allowed to speak so far? So know your boundaries. All right. How quickly does your customer want the problem solved? If they want it solved yesterday, that might be a little bit difficult. But if they give you a week to solve something, you may want to decide on the process first before you go and solve the problem. So you may want to have set the stake in the ground, so to speak. Talk to your customer, have a set aside meeting where you talk about what they're able to allow you to do and what they're going to be doing, and let them know the type of time constraints that they need to also support. They can't wait till 11th hour to make the decision yes or no, because especially if it's no, they're going to need to have you come up with a new solution. So, all right. And this question, are you given all the knowledge required to solve the problems? Is the customer holding anything back that they don't want you to know? Or are you not going to be allowed to know that stuff, and they're just going to go along and take your problem or your solution and adapt it to something else? Are they being fully open? Because at this point, if they're coming to you to solve a problem, they need to be fully open about their problems, about their resources, about their time. Okay. All right. So team incentives. I mentioned this earlier about recognition, and recognition I put all the way at the bottom, but it really should be at the top. Recognition is so important. When you recognize somebody's good work or somebody's solution, recognize them publicly. The whole expression praise in public, recommend in private is so important here. You want to recognize your team as well as, people that gave you the permissions to move along the guidelines, or gave you the guidelines to move along to achieve your objective. So, we'll start again at the top. You have prizes and contests. And, so we talked about Starbucks and United, which is the airline I flew. But in companies, you also have great things like, I'll tell you, the company I work for, Leidos, is great about their prize incentivizations. They do a lot of things where they want feedback from us. So in turn for our feedback, they'll put us in a drawing for prizes. They've done prizes like bicycles and vacations, not very expensive stuff, more like staycation stuff. But makes it pretty good, to know that from one place to another where you have to fill in a couple surveys, and guess what? Now you're entered in this contest. You also have those um, contests, or not really a contest, but where you track your physical fitness. And our company has that. My last company had that, where you track your physical fitness, and after so much time, you get entered into a drawing. So if you achieve a certain amount of points, it's goes into new drawing. And so people wonder, well, what does that get for the organization? Well, it gets a healthier workforce. That workforce is more able to give them the time and the concentration to work on their problems. So bonuses, usually you see bonuses on more senior level business development directive, but bonuses are really good. Even when you get the more junior people, you can put them in for a bonus. We had this thing in the military called beneficial suggestions. That your idea became government property, but you get a bonus out of it, a monetary bonus, which is very unusual in the military. However, in the civilian sector, you have a lot more freedom. And so just consider giving your people bonuses, when they do a really extraordinary good job. Don't make it everybody every time, because then that takes away from the special bonus of it. And then performance evaluations. You know, you can consider putting, how much people share their knowledge and share their processes and work to get their input to things and reflect on the performance evaluations. That sounds very difficult, but if you have guidelines in place at the beginning of the year before you start the evaluation process that's going to include that, you'll get a lot more people involved in sharing. And we know knowledge sharing is so important in business. In any organization, you get somebody who knows how to do something. If they show the next person, they show the next person. Guess what? Your organization pretty soon is going to be that good at solving problems. And again, recognition. Make sure you recognize people. If it's a pat on the back, if it's a coin, if it's a certificate, make sure you do it publicly, because it doesn't mean as much if you just get called into an office and said, "Thank you very much. You've done a great job." But if you go out and you brag about a person in front of everybody, that's wonderful. But also, sending an email to a boss telling them how great this person was, they solved this difficult problem, or they led this team or this team. You can recognize a team too. You don't need to recognize individuals. You can recognize a whole team. Now, the only time that's difficult is when you have a person on a team that doesn't contribute. You've had those people that, you get the project in school, they're the person that doesn't do anything, so you end up doing more than you want to do. And so that's sometimes a problem with recognizing a team. Okay, so what other knowledge puzzles out there? So I give you a whole list of knowledge puzzles. And some of these are straight up games, but they, require, and you're looking at Price is Right. What's that? What's that about? How's that a knowledge puzzle where it requires a team? Well, you've seen those people at the front where they're trying to pick a cost point for the product they're trying to win, and they turn around to the audience, they ask the audience. So right there, you have a team of people. You go down, you got World of Warcraft. People are on their phones, on their headsets. They're working with the other people on the team to get their next goal, to achieve the objectives that are in front of them, solve the problems. And then you get down to toys. I talked about Marshmallow Challenge. Really isn't a toy, but Marshmallow Challenge is a team objective. But you have Legos and Lincoln Logs and Tinker Toys. You have all these things you're putting together, and you get a lot of kids together, and they'll put stuff together. But then you put these things in front of adults, and guess what? These adults will play with them for hours. It's these are coming back. If you check out your local Target or any of your Christmas lists now, you'll see these on the list. Okay. All right. And so the winners of the Masked Singer, just in case anybody's curious, you had T-Pain from season 1. He was the monster. And you got Wayne Brady, who's outstanding. This is by far my favorite season 2. And then season 3, we saw our first female winner, Candy Burris. She's one of the Real Housewives, I think, of one of the shows. I don't watch those shows, but I do watch Masked Singer. So please watch it tonight. You'll see a lot of coordination, a lot of teamwork together, solving problems, solving the who's behind the mask. Okay. And so this is my information. And if you get my presentation, you'll get, these are active links behind my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my business page, not my personal page, my Twitter and my Instagram. Okay. So I know I didn't go quite to 45 minutes, but um, here's some time for questions if you have any. All right.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Cynthia. And yeah, people were there were some comments saying lots of good insights here. Norman Walker, who is a fellow DODer, he's in the Defense Commissary Agency. When you were
Yes.
talking about the senior leadership especially in the military chain of command. The higher up the chain of command you go, the more bandwidth they hog. And
Yeah.
he typed in, while you were saying that, he typed in those damn captains.
Yeah, I know. But is he a retired captain?
I don't know. Well, I don't know, but he does ask a question. So he says, yeah, in that light, do you have any suggestions on how to deal with the type A personality? And by the way, for everybody in the audience, yeah, it's not just the senior leadership in the military ranks, but same way in the civilian side and in corporations. The C-suite, especially the CEO, same kind of thing. At least I've observed that. So do you have any? So Norman asks, do you have any suggestions on how to deal with those type A type personalities when they're actually stifling the problem solving process?
Well, we try to get out in front of it. It's you put those rules, those working group rules, or your business meeting rules out in place, and then you also have your parking lot. That a lot of people use to put, oh, that's a good point, I'll put it up here, and that seems to solve the problem. That seems to get people to know that you've acknowledged their problem, or that you acknowledge that they've got a lot to say, but you put it aside so that you can allow other voices to speak up.
Yeah, I made a note there about the idea of the parking lot.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so everyone, please uh, type your questions or your thoughts or your insights in the chat box. In the meantime, yeah, going along the same lines of people hogging the bandwidth, another interesting book that's out that you might know that's out there is by David Marquette. He's a retired Navy captain, a retired submarine skipper, and in the Navy, everything's ranked from top to bottom, right? And
Hmm.
so he was when he was an exec officer on a submarine. Then he was suddenly thrust into the skipper of a submarine that was ranked last. It was the worst. Mike McHale's Navy, the worst submarine in the fleet. And I think in about 18 months he turned it around to number one.
Awesome.
And the way he did it, and it's written in a book. And he has two books. Turn This Ship Around is where he
I've
tells
seen
the
that one,
story.
yes.
Okay, but his follow-up book is more along the lines of what we've been talking about here, and that book is entitled "Leadership is Language." And in that book is a little golden nugget where he does a similar thing to the World Bank and IMF. They have, you might have seen it. It's called the Gini coefficient. It's a calculation, it's an equation that measures income inequality. Marquette, brilliant guy, took that and adapted it for conversations. And so you might check out that reference. But it basically does the same thing. It measures inequality in discuss. So if you have a team, and it works for small teams, and
Hmm.
that's why he had to adjust it. The World Bank does for huge populations of millions of people. So this is just for small teams, 6, 8, 10 people. But it gives you an actual metric for how who's hogging and what is the inequality on a scale of 0 to 1. So if the index is 0, it means there's no inequality at all. Everybody has an equal voice, and if the index is 1, it's the exact opposite extreme. One person is hogging the conversation. So that's just a little. It's a nice reference in that regard, because that's a common problem everywhere. So thanks for bringing that up, both Cynthia and Norman. Okay, any other thoughts from our audience? I like what you said about incentives, because again, that might help people incentivize. What do you think of that, Cynthia? Will incentives help those shy people who, let's say, there is a dominant person hogging the conversation? Do you find incentives as a way to help draw those quiet voices out that have something to contribute?
Yeah, I have seen that. My last company I was at, I was a division manager, and so I had about 25 people working for me. So it wasn't as big as it was on a ship, but at this company, it made it a little bit easier when they started putting out coins. These coins didn't just come from leadership; they came from each other. So you could get it from your peers. Your peers could give you a coin saying that you did a great job. They had to put it through the process, but it was very very helpful to getting everybody to participate.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, folks, make use of that chat box. We'd love to hear from you. And again, while people are thinking, if you have any other last thoughts or questions, you also one thing that also caught my attention, Cynthia, is when you mentioned rotating team members. And so here's a thought
Mhm.
that we often struggle with, because you've got sort of a creative tension there. If you get a team together that really clicks and they really nail it, and a couple of times they've gotten together and boom, they solve that problem quickly. So now you're in the tension of, okay, I know that we should break it up and have those team members go elsewhere and have other people come in so we don't get stale. What are your thoughts on that? Where's the balance between, getting it, you got a team together and they're clicking, and then how do you say, okay, when do you know it's time to sort of break it up and bring some other members in?
Well, I think the first time is when you start seeing the same solutions come out every single time. Where you got the same people making the same decisions. You gotta put those people in a mentorship role elsewhere. Maybe break it up so that you have more people learning the process. But you know, definitely when you see the same solutions every time, because you don't want the same solution every time. Eventually, it's not going to work, and people are going to go, "Oh my God, what's not happening? Who didn't do their job?" So, it's not easy to break up the team, but there's got to be more than one team.
True, true. Okay, great, great.
Mhm.
All right, last call for either your questions or insights, or if you like, you want to give a round of applause to Cynthia. Go ahead, give a virtual say. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. So go ahead. We'll stay on for another minute or so. Um,
Yep.
let's see. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, Cynthia, let me turn it over to you one more time for your closing thoughts.
Um, I don't really have anything extraordinary here. Just thank you very much for listening. Watch Mass Singer, see what I'm saying about the coordination between the judges, because they're maybe in real a different time than we are, but they have a lot of experience, and that's what you really got to do. You got to get those people with experience in your team to be able to solve the problems.
Okay, great. And for our participants, don't forget to check out Cynthia's. She has 3 short books on the KM World Bookstore. Just links to her short Kindle books. They're nice short chapters that
Hmm.
dive in a little deeper. So those will be very helpful. And then Cynthia said she will be available in the networking area.
Yep.
And so that's where, and go to networking area B. We're track B, and there's a room separate breakout room, in the tab that says sessions in your portal. So hop on over there. Nicole, thank you. Nicole says she loves the show, so she's
Oh,
she's a
so
fellow.
she knows exactly what I was talking about then.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So with that, thanks everyone, and we'll continue. We're going to take a break here, and we'll hope to see everyone back here in almost in an hour or so at 2 o'clock for
Okay,
our
so
next
give me a
session.
minute to get over there if you want to talk to me.
Sure.